So Mexico is cooperating with the United States against drug gangs? That's exactly what President Trump wanted.
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. This is really a good thing. We formed something that's called the Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel. And that, as the word implies, is a multi-agency force largely gathering intelligence on what is happening to these cartels. And that agency helped to put El Mencho and some of his thugs in a particular place at a particular time so that the Mexican National Guard, who is actually a full-time activity, not a part-time activity like in the United States, was able to attack and take down the leadership to include El Mencho. Yeah, a very successful operation, and you got the point here. President Sheinbaum and President Trump are on the same page here, working at a common objective, and that common objective is to bring down these cartels once and for all for the reasons well understood by the American people. They are damaging and poisoning the American people through the distribution of fentanyl and also cocaine and other drugs. So this hopefully is a step in a continuing cooperation between both countries.
I presume there is a possibility that the drug gangs will take some American hostages. I mean, I'm just putting this out there. If that happened, would we send in our military to release them, free them?
I think the drug cartels likely are pretty tuned in to the United States and obviously very tuned into what goes on in Mexico. I would suspect they're going to step lightly here in terms of not wanting to poke the bear, so to speak. And that means President Trump. In other words, don't want to do anything like taking American hostages, which would absolutely produce some kind of a U.S. response, and certainly much greater than what we're doing right now. I'm confident they fear more U.S. involvement here because of the capabilities that we have. But the most significant thing here is Sheinbaum's cooperation.
Okay.
And hopefully she continues to do this. And if so, we're going to make some progress here.
Got it. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, he has this chilling warning about Iran's nuclear program. Watch this.
They say that it's all about their civil program, and yet they've been enriching well beyond the number that you need for civil nuclear. It's up to 60%. They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb-making material.
General, I thought that their bomb-making ability had been devastated by the attacks from our B-2s. But Witkoff is saying they're still processing uranium. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't know. I mean, certainly Steve Witkoff's a lot closer to the intelligence than I am. But I concluded that even, let's assume everything is correct as stated, it would still be several months before they would absolutely be able to weaponize something like that. But, it brings up the absolute falsehood and lying capability of this regime. Here they're sitting across from our negotiators and trying to tell them that they have no intention to build a nuclear weapon, that they only want enriched uranium for civil nuclear purposes. To enrich uranium for civil nuclear purposes, in other words, a nuclear power plant, is 3 to 5% enriched uranium. They have one of these. They put it online in 2011. Given the amount of enriched uranium that they've had for many years, well in excess of 3 to 5%, as noted by Steve here, the fact is, where are the civil nuclear plants? If that's what they have them for. They haven't built one of them. We all know what they're up to, but the fact that they lie and continue to tell that bold-faced lie, in my mind, means there's no way we can ever trust these people. They will continue to lie and they will continue to cheat.
So how much longer
Everybody
can it go
knows
on for?
it.
I mean, how much longer can it go on for? I mean, they've been lying and cheating for all these years and at these talks constantly. The president, at some point, he's got to run out of patience, hasn't he?
I think we're coming pretty close to the preferred option, in my judgment, which is to conduct a comprehensive military operation combined with Israel that would be significantly greater than what we saw during the 12-day war, the purpose of which would be to set the conditions for the regime in Iran to finally collapse. And that would be a significant military campaign focusing on leaders, the entire infrastructure that sustains them, ballistic missiles, to be sure, rockets and drones, and whatever is left of the nuclear program. That is a comprehensive general target list, I think, that is likely to unfold. And I agree with the implication you're making. The sooner we get on with it, the better.
Tomorrow marks 4 years since the main Russian invasion of Ukraine. How does this war end, General?
Well, we don't know how it ends, and that's the facts. We do know a couple things, though, after 4 years. Russia wanted to take this country in 2 to 3 weeks. They failed miserably to do that. What they own right now is about 20% of the country. In the last 2.5 years, they gained an additional 1%. This war is stalemated. They advertise that they're making all this offensive progress. That's a bold-faced lie. The fact is they're not making progress. And after 4 years, think of it. This is mighty Russia supposed to overwhelm Ukraine in a matter of weeks, and they are making no progress in taking this country down. The Institute for the Study of War team just returned last week from the front lines, and what they encountered there was steadfast Ukrainian troops, proud of what they're doing, and they're right there in the fortress belt, the very terrain that Russia wants Ukraine to give up voluntarily. Why do they want them to give it up voluntarily? Because they cannot take it. And even those soldiers were telling the ISW team, listen, the Russians are never going to take this territory away from us. I'm talking about the fortress belt that's in the Donetsk region that Russia wants so badly. And it speaks to itself. Why do they want Ukraine to give it up voluntarily? Because they can't get there themselves.
Right.
We're stalemated. Here's what the Russians are doing, Stuart. They are negotiating, stalling. And the reason for that is so they can continue to put pressure on the Ukraine people, who will put pressure on Zelensky, and also to get President Trump fed up with this thing and get him so frustrated with it that he walks away. I don't think the president's going to do that. I don't think Zelensky is going to cave into this kind of pressure. But that's the reason why this is going on, because Russia continues to negotiate, and they want to avoid adverse action by the president. In other words, increased sanctions and more military assistance to Ukraine.
Got it.
That's the game that Russians playing.
Got it. General Jack Keane, thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir. We always appreciate it. See you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great talking to you, Stuart. Thank you.